How we doing, everyone? Welcome to episode 6. This is All Blocks Covered, a podcast that talks about all the different facets of the NBA. I'm your host, Marcus. I got Chili Chill right next to me. Say what's up, Chili.
What up, what up?
On this episode, we're going to spend the first portion talking about Chili's Lakers. Got a lot to talk about with them. AD returned. How did he play in these last 2 games? Then, just like every episode, we have to bring up the Knicks. Long conversation about the Knicks. Sole possession in 4th place. What does that mean for them and their storyline? Then we're going to talk a big chunk on the play-in tournament. Maybe some hypotheticals. Who is our 7 through 10? And kind of go through the different games and what that might be. It's actually happening in about 3 weeks, which is pretty crazy. So we're just going to give our own little hypothetical of what that might be. And we'll end it with, what do we want to see in these last 3 weeks? What questions, what storylines, what do we want answered? The season is almost ending, which is really crazy. It's been so fast this year. And it is a condensed schedule. It is 72 games, but we're almost to the finish line, almost to the playoffs. But as always, before we even start, we've got so many segments, so many random things that we want to talk about. So we want to bring back, from 2 episodes ago, we did a pizza debate. And so we're kind of stemming off that and making it its own segment on our own food takes. And we're going to title that Food Court. I'm sure you can get the connection with that. But we each kind of have like our own top 5, but what we're doing is a top 5 national brand fast food joints. So you go first, and then I'll go second, and then we'll kind of compare or do our own review, and then anything that we left off, we'll just say if it's crap or not, or trash or not.
So I've got a solid top 5 of places that I go to every time I think about fast food. No particularly order, because they're all kind of different. It depends on the mood that I'm in. So I'll start with a legendary Chick-fil-A.
Wait, is that your 1 or 5? Or it doesn't matter?
Well, no order, because
Okay, cool,
they're
cool.
all so different.
Got it.
But Chick-fil-A is definitely a place that I go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Not on Sundays, obviously.
Fact.
But it's just so good. I just, if I'm craving chicken, I'm going to Chick-fil-A. Number 2 on the list, again, no order. If I'm craving a burger and, the pockets are kind of tight, I'm going to hit up Checkers, bro.
Ooh.
Checkers,
okay.
They got a mean burger. I forgot the name right now, but it's so good. The best part, the fries are very crispy, very, very nice. They also have like mozzarella sticks that I get sometimes when I'm feeling, I'm balling.
Oh, adventurous,
Yeah. And then if I'm craving a sub, I'm going to Firehouse Subs. That's like my favorite sub place. I'll get the number 1, hook and ladder. Man, it's so good. I might even leave a donation, for the fire, man, because it's so good. And then if I'm feeling a little Tex-Mex, a little Mexican action, Americanized, I'm going to hit up Chipotle,
Okay.
I'm getting a bowl, bro. I'm going to get the steak bowl. Give me the guac. Give me the cheese.
Load
give
it
me
up.
The sour cream. Give me the free veggies. I'm taking everything. And last but not least, this is a go-to. I go for my sweets and for my coffee. And, America runs on Dunkin'. So, I'm hitting up Dunkin' Donuts because they got the decent price coffee. And then if I'm feeling like I need a sweet, then I can grab it's not the best donuts in the world, but it's just convenient. So that's my top 5 right there.
That is a very good top 5. Again, this is national brand, so it is what it is. Mine is very common, and you kind of sparked something in me, so I might have to change my list a little.
Make note of it. I'm curious.
I don't feel comfortable in my top 5, to be quite honest. I think it's okay. It's whatever, but no particular order. So I'll start with the one that Chili kind of sparked my interest was Firehouse, because I completely forgot about Firehouse. And I just want to make this clarification that I don't necessarily eat out a ton, so I completely forgot about Firehouse, but so good. Way better than Subway. Meatball sub is really good. I think there's like a barbecue, like chicken sub that's really good as well. I would go to like a local place for these things, but again, national brand, fast food, they take care of you. Way better than Subway. My next one, I'm going to go with a burger joint. And mine is Five Guys.
Whoa.
Load up on the fries. You know, you don't need to get the medium or large, guys. Like, just get the small. They're going to put like 10 handfuls into that bag, and it's going to feel like a large. The same with the drink. You don't need to get the large drink. Get the small drink. It looks like a large. I don't necessarily actually care for the burgers, but it's literally the fries are probably one of the best like fast food fries. That's just like my opinion. But Five Guys is my burger joint. The next one, we have to take it back from 2 episodes ago, and I'm going to put Domino's, as my third for fast food. And we did have to clarify this before the podcast that pizza places were technically fast food. It literally takes like 15 minutes to make. It is pretty fast. But Domino's is my go-to pizza place. We already had the discussion of like what our actual favorite pizza places are, but Dommy's is going to be my fast food top 5. Number 2, the last 2 are very similar to Chili's. Americanized Mexican, Chipotle. You got to put Chipotle on there. He already pretty much said what he had to say about it. I echo the same sort of deal. My last place is, you got to go Chick-fil-A.
Goat.
I mean, very much goated. We've been to establishments, Chick-fil-A establishments, where they know our names, they know our orders, and we're not talking about like the same Chick-fil-A place. We're talking about different.
And I'm not even talking about with the app that has your name on. I'm talking about pulling up to the driveway. Good morning, blank. Welcome back.
Full conversations. Like I said, they know your order. Like, again, they take care of you. They know everything that's going on in your life because you see them pretty much almost every day or every other day. Decade plus of this sort of feel. They have not let me down. The service is undeniable.
It's been a true pleasure eating at Chick-fil-A.
It really has. Let's do places that we haven't talked about really quick, and we'll kind of end it with this. We haven't said
real quick.
You go for it. You go.
You're not gonna find me at Burger King.
That's exactly what I was gonna bring up.
That's it used to be a place, especially growing up in Puerto Rico, and I don't know if it's because I was a kid and I thought it was fire, or if it's because it's gotten worse. But when I was a kid, I used to go to BK all the time. I thought the nuggets were better than McDonald's and all that. And now, last time we went to BK because of a deal on T-Mobile Tuesdays, we tossed it. We couldn't finish it. We started eating it, then we tossed the bread, just eating the chicken and the meat, and still ended up tossing it. It's like, it was gross.
No BK, not having it your way, none of that. McDonald's, didn't say McDonald's.
Crystal loves McDonald's. Me personally, I like the pies. You know, you can get the apple pie, the guava, strawberry, and then obviously the coffees. So I go there for the dessert and coffee.
The fries are pretty good, depending when you go. They never have the ice cream working. The machine's always broken. Don't understand why that's a thing at every single McDonald's place. I don't know if it's like an inside joke for them. Or maybe they just don't want to clean it out. I don't really know what it is. Yeah, McDonald's is a no for me. Wendy's.
I like Wendy's, but Crystal doesn't, so don't really get a chance to go often. But if I'm by myself, I'm getting a Baconator, a little sweet and sour on the side.
Used to be a go-to place in high school, for sure. It was either Chick-fil-A or Wendy's. Would prefer Chick-fil-A, but, you know, Wendy's is cheaper as well, in and out. Panda. I almost put that on my list, actually.
Yeah, and that's a place that I go often. It just sucks sometimes with the line, or they don't really have my black pepper chicken that I really like. But the teriyaki is really good, bro.
KFC or Popeyes?
Controversial.
Very.
Growing up, it was all KFC, but now it seems like they're kind of dry, and Popeyes is like very popular. So I've been rocking with Popeyes lately.
which I guess my controversy is that it's neither. I guess I don't know the last time I had KFC. I didn't get into that fascination between the Chick-fil-A and Popeye's chicken sandwich thing, which I know that was a big thing. I guess I'm just too loyal to Chick-fil-A ? That I just have a hard time.
Exclamation point.
Actually, that's really what it is. Is there any other fast food places that I can kind of think of that?
Well, Taco Bell's a popular one.
Oh, I forgot about Taco Bell.
People that like to party, late night. They're open pretty late.
Good times.
I like Taco Bell. Sometimes if I have too much, my stomach, it just doesn't take it well. But for the most part, I like Taco Bell. But to be honest, I'd rather go to a finer Mexican establishment.
Exactly. Taco Bell used to be my life, especially in college. Like you said, the late nights, extracurricular activities. After those extracurricular activities, Taco Bell.
Facts.
But I think there was one point where I literally just stopped going and I just haven't went back. I'd rather just go to Chipotle or whatever it might be. But yeah, I don't personally eat out at fast food a lot. We talked about this even 2 episodes ago about like getting groceries over fast food, which again, we're contradicting ourselves about like how much we love these fast food places. But
on a positive note, we just got an air fryer. We've been using it. We've been making
such a millennial move.
Yeah, dumplings and you name it. So it's been healthy.
Cooking is fun, guys. Cooking is fun. Get into it. Be creative. Before we get into segment 1, the Oscars are tonight. Any movies that you recommend that are either getting nominated or just in general that you've seen?
Yeah, from the list. I've seen a lot of movies this past year. It's been a weird year with COVID, and a lot of the movies I watch are not on the list. Maybe they'll be on the list next year. But from the list that I saw for tonight, I like Tenet. That was pretty cool. It was different. Mulan and Soul were some that stood out.
A little Disney action right there. One thing that you might find out either now at this moment or maybe down the road is I am not a movie person. And I'm not even really a TV show person. So you're probably asking, what do I do in my spare time? It's neither of those. So don't ask me to binge. Don't ask me to watch this movie. It's something about just sitting down and watching something for a long period of time. It's just not in my agenda for the day. So I don't have any sort of opinion on any movies. Don't know what's nominated for the Oscars, but I just know that it's tonight. But Chili always recommends movies to me, and I always write it down, and maybe at some point I will find some time. But with that, let's go into segment 1. All right, so this is going to turn into like a Lakers podcast at this point because we're bringing up the Lakers, doing our episode check-in with Chili's Lakers.
Lake Show.
And so let's just start out with this because this was the story of the week of Anthony Davis coming back off of his injury. He has been out for a while. The Lakers were sort of tumbling without LeBron and AD, and a lot of the questions were, when are they going to come back? If they're going to come back, how is the Lakers going to kind of move forward without them? But this week we did see Anthony Davis come back on the floor. And so I'll start with you, Chili, of just like, one, your excitement level of like him just naturally coming back, and then what did you actually see from Anthony Davis right now?
I was very excited to see him back. I was like, okay, we are going to have a chance again to make a run. His first game, expected rusty. Only played 17 minutes, had 4 points. But his second game against the same team, Dallas Mavericks, played like 11 more minutes and had about 13 more points in the first game, so that was good. So just happy to see him. I know he was hurting a little more. He was like feeling down his calf again. So hopefully that's not a bad sign, but we'll see what happens.
Before I talk about like these last 2 games, let's kind of go back really quick to like last year. He's one of those guys that ended up on the Lakers, the team that he really wanted to, or really just wanted to play with LeBron. You can see the excitement from last year. He played like all world. There was moments, especially in the bubble, where you were just like, is this the best player in the world? Like, or can he be the best player in the world? There were so many moments where he was just so unguardable. He had opportunities to win Defensive Player of the Year. He could have won MVP. That's a whole nother discussion with narrative, stats, eye test, whatever you want to do. But there was just so much coming out of the bubble last year where you're just like, wow, this is like a whole new Anthony Davis, and he literally is a top 5 player at that moment. He did come into the season kind of slow. Like LeBron was full force. Like again, we talked about this last episode about him him being in the MVP conversation, but Anthony Davis, he was just kind of going through the motions. Maybe the whole 72 days off, that short limited time, maybe caught up to him. Maybe he was just trying to feel how the season was kind of going on, and then he got injured, and now he comes back, and he's going to be rusty right now. But what I saw from him is kind of like what I saw really from like the first half of the season, where it's just like, just kind of feeling it out there, not trying to go too hard. Maybe is he conscious about the injury still kind of deal. This is sort of a new team now with Drummond, and we'll get to Drummond, trying to play with him. But he pretty much what you said, just exactly, not kind of doing too much, just doing just enough. And obviously he was going to be limited with minutes. So there is excitement for Laker fans knowing that Anthony Davis is back. He's going to get more playing time. He's going to get more adjusted. Hopefully LeBron does come back. But we need to talk about the other guys on the team. And I spent some time watching the last 2 games against the Mavs, just really sitting down and watching the entire game and watching what this Laker rotation is like. And I guess we'll go back and said, who is that X factor that the Lakers really needed to produce? And some of the guys that we really just wanted to see shine on this occasion without LeBron and AD. I guess I'll start with Dennis Schroeder. He's actually risen to the occasion, to be honest. He was actually one of their number 1 guys. I don't know what you saw out of Dennis Schroeder, but like for me, he brought it defensively and he brought it offensively.
Yeah, that was the thing I was going to mention with his production. I saw a lot of offensive production with him.
And it kind of started with that Utah Jazz game. Like we said, like they were hyping up him and Jordan Clarkson, and it turned out to be like a shootout between those two. But like, it's amazing that we talked about the one X factor that we wanted out of the Lakers was Dennis Schroeder to kind of shine to the occasion, and he has. It's the other guys that I still have question marks with.
So, real quick, I think for me the biggest question mark right now is Montrezl Harrell.
Yes.
I don't see anything. Like the past few games, it's just been non-existent.
Jeff Van Gundy said this on the broadcast. Marc Gasol went into the game in the first half and played like a ton of minutes off the bench. Montrezl Harrell did not play the entire last night's game, and I don't know if he even played in the game before that. And I'm trying to figure out what Frank Vogel's sort of mindset is, because for me personally, I want to see Harrell out there more than Gasol. I just feel like Harrell provides a lot more. Whether it's energy, whether it's on the defensive end, whether it's rebounding, the tenacity that he brings, especially the spark that he does off the bench. And again, Marc Gasol is just not that same player that we known him for. Like, he's an incredible player throughout his entire career. No disrespect, but Harrell needs to be the one that needs to be playing the most minutes. So I'm just confused by Vogel's decision to not necessarily play Harrell and play Gasol more, and I'm hoping this is not foreshadowing when it comes to the playoff time, and this is the decision that he's going to make. Another guy that I just have an issue with is Kyle Kuzma.
And to be honest, I'm surprised you have an issue, because I thought this past few games he did okay.
I don't know if it's really just a big issue. I just felt like, first of all, defensively, and I know Laker fans, I've seen this on Twitter, it's just that he's just a ghost on defense. He just continues to get lost on defense. And it's the offensive production where he just does enough. But he needs to recognize that LeBron is not there. And especially when AD was not there, he needs to take it up a notch. He can't necessarily play at the same level of when LeBron and AD are there, where he can kind of hide and just be like, hey, I'm just going to be the guy that just shoots in the corner three, sort of deal, or I'm just going to take up a couple shots. Like, no, you need to attack. Because you can be a third or fourth guy on your team, but I don't know necessarily what you're waiting for. And that's, I guess, my issue with Kuzma, because when it comes down to the playoff time, they're going to need him. They're going to go against better teams this year, I believe, than last year. And so they're going to need someone like Kyle Kuzma. Now, the next guy is Andre Drummond. And for me personally, I I'm trying to figure out how this is going to work because the interior offense is not necessarily there. And surprisingly, the defense is not there. Like, he's not good with switching, and he's not good with drop coverage when the other team attacks. And the Mavs were really exploiting Andre Drummond.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I saw someone just go by him like it was nothing.
And it's the lack of awareness, I guess, and just like of his surroundings. And I don't necessarily want to say basketball IQ, but just the defensive awareness of kind of like where you're at, you know, and then who is about to screen and what you need to do. And I just need to see, first of all, I just need to see more with him and AD. But I know it's a small sample size, but I'm more leaning to the fact that AD needs to play the 5 and Harrell or Morris needs to play the 4 when it comes to crunch time and actual meaningful minutes. And I know Andre Drummond is a really good player, all-star as well, but he is new to the team. He's still trying to figure out his way. They're going to need him in the playoffs, specifically for rebounding and size. But just like for Vogel, you might have to get to that point where AD might be the 5.
And why do you say that?
I think it's because, one, chemistry, him being new to the team, and 2, the Lakers are a very good defensive team, like prior to when he got there, and they're still a really good defensive team as well. You just cannot give up easy layups and easy points underneath the basket from the other team when you can have an AD at the 5 and you can have a Montrezl Harrell who is physical down there and is a really good defender. Or you can put in Morris and he's a stretch 4 and can shoot from the outside, which Drummond can't do, you know, sort of deal. I like when Drummond and AD are going to be in there because if you play the Nets, one of their weaknesses, they don't have the bigs. So might as well put two 5s essentially on the court, dump it inside to Drummond or AD or do like a high-low action with them. But if we're going like run and gun and we need points and, you know, we need to stop people, I don't know if Drummond is going to be that guy. I'd rather, like I said, I'd rather have Morris, who's been on the team, or Harrell, who I know is going to give me that spark. So that's just like my opinion, but it is a small sample size. And I still need to see more games. But I guess the overall issue that I have with the Lakers, and this is not necessarily, I shouldn't be making a big deal about this because they're one of the top teams when you add LeBron or whatever, but just like they shouldn't necessarily wait for LeBron to get that spark, to get that like energized and scoring points, because what I found out last night, Jeff Van Gundy said this, is that they're one of the last place teams in offense without LeBron James. So you can kind of see how much of a value LeBron brings to them in terms of just like setting guys up, getting guys going. They have been missing KCP. That's going to be a big deal. But just like they just need everyone to just kind of figure things out now. There was a lot of mishaps these last couple games, but again, this is just nitpicking the team that we think is actually going to be in the finals, because you got a Utah team, you got a Phoenix Suns team, you got a Clippers team that right now they're actually rolling right now, and they don't really give a damn about what the Lakers are doing right now. So this is a great opportunity for the Lakers to just figure it out now. So when you get to the playoffs, there's no sort of mystery when LeBron gets there and you guys are rolling, essentially. But that's just kind of like the observation and our Lakers check-in of just kind of like...
Oh, the one positive thing.
Yeah.
Because, we got to sprinkle some positiveness. THT is getting better every day, so
True.
that makes me happy.
That is true, and I know you're very big on him. And they have started him a couple times as well, so they do trust him.
And I just love his game. It's so simple. He's just so long and low-key strong, so like he just gets to the basket with the same move.
It's crazy that he literally played like no minutes last year, and now he's literally playing meaningful. Again, like I said, starting. I do want to say one more guy, and this is a positive, is Ben. They just got Ben McLemore. Very key guy for them. He did start on Saturday. He's playing not nervous, with a lot of confidence. When he gets the ball, he's ready to shoot.
Well, he's finished with the most points a few times for the Lakers that I've seen.
It's part of him like seizing the moment and seizing the opportunity of just like, hey, they're giving me this opportunity. I'm not going to let this go, because he has been bouncing around teams in the NBA. But just like if he can get going as a shooter, then you have Ben McLemore and KCP on the outside. If you can get Kuzma to get going, Schroeder, like I said, if you can get these guys going, you can kind of see when LeBron gets back, like they're going to be full go. It's a matter of just not waiting for that time and just like we just want to see it now. essentially. There's so many positive that can happen. They just need to be a little bit more consistent, you know. But that's the Lakers. We'll probably end up talking about them the next episode, like always. But another team that I guess I'm obsessed about right now, I don't know why. They're the story of the entire NBA right now. Guys, the Knicks.
The Knickerbockers
are back. 9 straight wins. They are just rolling sole possession of 4th place, over 500. Every episode, we're kind of thinking they're going to fall off. They're going to fall off. At some point, it's the Knicks. You look at them on paper and you see this is a team that's probably going to win 13 to 20 games, but they just keep getting after it. They're beating good teams. They're competing against good teams. They have one of the toughest schedules remaining, but just like I don't feel nervous anymore for them because, again, they keep rising to the occasion. What are you seeing from the Knicks that's just like making this so much fun, I guess?
Well, real quick, my mind just kind of went somewhere else. I was thinking about Julius Randle and how good he's gotten. And I don't think he has a nickname, right? Julius?
I don't think so.
So I was thinking he kind of reminds me of Ninja Turtle.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
You know, the whole city.
I see the
fighting,
vibe.
Strong, agile.
I could see that. Since you even brought up Julius Randle, we just need to start throwing these sort of titles or these sort of conversations out there. We talked about this before we even started the podcast about like, could Julius Randle be most improved player? Now, one of the things that I brought up was the fact that I had a hard time putting him in the most improved conversation a while back because he had similar numbers when he's with the Pelicans 2 years ago. And so it was hard for me to say like, hey, is this mediocre player, which he's not, and he's getting better the next year, and that's why he's the most improved. We had Jeremy Grant on there. We had Christian Wood was another guy that we thought were probably pretty much locks at that point. But I think over the course of the season, what you're looking at right now is that it's almost kind of like a foregone conclusion that he really is one of the most improved guys if you take into account last year. But, I mean, just like any sort of award, like it's going to be agenda, media narrative, eye test, analytics, how people actually view the award. I talked to Chili about this before we even started the podcast today of just like, when did we get to the point where it can't be a star player, or does it have to be a mediocre player that gets better over the season, or is it your best season in your entire career, even if you had something similar like beforehand? So there's so many different factors that go into. I just want to ask you, would you pick Julius Randle right now for most improved?
At this point, I would. And at the beginning of the season, I didn't want to based on what you said. But Christian Wood, he was hurt. He was out for a lot of games.
Right.
He was my favorite candidate at the moment, but injuries just kind of takes him out of the race. And then Jeremy Grant, same thing. He was hurt. So, it's hard for me to keep them in the race.
Which you're kind of bringing up this whole theme, and the entire NBA season is like everyone's kind of dropping at the knees right now where everyone's getting hurt and everyone's getting injured. But that is a whole another story, or that's the biggest story, really, of the season right now. But at this point, it's almost hard to find another person to put in that sort of category right now for everything that Julius Randle has done. And it's almost, you start begging the question, is he an all-NBA player? I mean, there's so many good guys that played really good this year, but injuries, like I said, has been a big story, and a lot of people have missed games. And he hasn't. He's one guy outside of RJ Barrett that's played the most minutes in the NBA, which is a typical Tibbs thing that we said on the first episode. But he has brought it every single night, and it's almost, and I'm putting it out there saying that he at least needs to be third team All NBA. Like, he has to have a spot on All NBA. The numbers are there. He has put the Knicks on the map. Like I said, they're the 4th seed right now. They're above 500. Like, he's the best player on the team.
Hey, I'm gonna quote my man's Chuck.
Oh man,
Julius Randle, guaranteed All NBA team. Because he's a power forward, right?
Yeah.
I mean, above him, who? Giannis, LeBron. I mean, LeBron LeBron is mostly a small forward. I feel like, you know?
True. When we get to All NBA, it's going to be tough. It's going to be funny because like I'm saying right now that Julius Randle needs to be at least one of those teams, but then when we start like laying it down, just like we did with All Star, it's going to be like, oh wait,
Is he though?
you're right. Yeah, we're going to contradict ourselves.
But I feel like with some other guys, we're gonna have that scenario. But with Julius, I feel like guaranteed he's gonna be on it.
I'm not here for the Julius Randle for MVP. That kind of goes in the line with the Chris Paul for MVP.
We'll leave that to the Knicks fans.
Yeah,
They can chant.
he is your MVP for the season. He's your guy.
He's your team MVP.
But I guess sticking with awards, I mean, a lot of the production of how this kind of took place is because of Tom Thibodeau. And so I kind of wrote down just like, would you consider him coach of the year at this point?
I will. I would.
I just feel like where they're at right now is a product of because of Tom Thibodeau.
Because you look at Philly
Right.
with Doc, and he's a really good coach. But without Doc, are they going to be a top 3 team? Yeah. Then you look at Utah. I mean, that's a little different.
Yeah.
But I still see them as a top 4 team. I don't know.
And I like that you kind of broke it down right there because I think Quinn Snyder will win it because Utah is a number 1 seed. Just even saying that out loud.
And even look at them now without Don Spida.
True. You can throw in Monty Williams. Is it Monty Williams or is it the Chris Paul effect? I think it's a combination of both or a combination of the entire team. But just like I said at the very beginning about this Knicks thing, you look at the roster and it's really a 20-win team. But you have Tom Thibodeau.
It's like Philly with the trust the process days.
Exactly. It really is.
Like 17 games. And
Remember, it's funny because last year when they couldn't get like all the superstars, they decided to like bring in like a ton of like power forwards and it just didn't make sense. But now it's like you kind of have that sort of vibe. You got a little bit better players right now or more improved players. But when you have Tom Thibodeau and he brings in the values of playing really hard defense, which they're one of the best team defenses in the league. They play hard for 48 minutes, so it gives you a chance, especially in the NBA if like you're going against a good team, they're banged up, maybe it's an off night for them. Oh, look, that's a win for you sort of deal, which they've been doing every single night. They've been playing so hard. And then you have Julius Randle, who is just, again, upped his game. It's almost like a recipe for success, but majority of that is because of Tom Thibodeau. So for me, I know there's like 3 more weeks left in the season, and we'll get into awards when it gets to that. But just like at this point, I feel comfortable at least his name being 1 or 2. You know, just pretty much fair at that. Even just like looking at this roster, just like it's fun to see RJ Barrett. You know, like
mid-range Barrett,
like how kind of physical he is and how big he is. He's finding his shot. He's finding his like playmaking ability. He's only 20 years old, guys. You know, like we don't need to put this huge expectations. I know he was like the number 3 pick. But again, he's so young. There's so much time right now. I know he's in a big market. He's with the Knicks. You want him to produce like this all world. You see John Morant. You see Zion Williamson. You see all these young guys producing other places. And you're just thinking, why can't RJ Barrett be like that? It's going to take time. He's on a team that's still trying to figure it out. They're playing really well, and they're overachieving, but it's still, even long-term, it's still kind of a mystery. But you got to be patient with RJ Barrett, but he has been playing really good these last couple weeks. You bring in Derrick Rose, you know, that was kind of sort of a, what are we doing right here? Because we have Emmanuel Quickly, the rookie that was playing really well. It's the connection with Tom Thibodeau. It's working out somehow. Like, he's a really good player, but it's working out. They've been figuring it out. Taj Gibson, Chicago Bull guy, connection with Tom Thibodeau, somehow working out, you know, sort of deal. Reggie Bullock, two-way player, very, very good. Obi Toppin, is he just a dunk guy? No, he's hitting corner threes. He's doing really well on defense. Just the whole team is just so much fun, and they're putting it all together. And it's very important that they hold on to that 4 seed because that's home court. You know, that, and then when you start allowing more fans, the more weeks, the more people get vaccinated, however they do it at Madison Square Garden. If you can get a first rounder with home court, can you win a series? because you start thinking if they're the 4th seed, who's going to be in that 5th seed?
And I think they could beat Atlanta, a team like Atlanta or
Any one of these teams, to be honest.
Anybody under them.
Like I said, if they play hard, but what I want to see is this is like my dream of New York as the 4th seed, Boston as the 5th seed. I just need that storyline between New York and Boston. And if New York beats Boston Celtics, a team that's been in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 of the last 3 years, beat them in the first round,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Would not be surprised. And just the trash talking from New Yorkers. Whew. That is going to be a sight to see, and I really hope that actually happens. This episode's Community Assist Minute is dedicated to Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors. Steph and his wife Aisha Curry helped to serve 16 million meals to Oakland children and families at risk of food insecurity with their young foundation Eat, Learn, Play. The Currys launched this foundation in the summer of 2019, hoping to address 3 pillars of healthy childhoods: nutrition, education, and recreation. During the pandemic, the meal delivery program has been 3-pronged. The first effort is fundraising for the Alameda County Community Food Bank, which has had to double its output due to the spike in need. The foundation also partners with the Oakland Unified School District to deliver meals to schools in need. And last, they have partnered with local growers to deliver fresh produce boxes to families along with meals. The Currys are committed to funding all infrastructure and operating costs so that every dollar raised goes directly to the community. While the Currys are the foundation's largest donors, their name has also brought awareness and fundraising power. CEO Chris Helfrich said Eat, Learn, Play has raised more than $15 million just in its first full year. In the late summer, when the school year starts, Eat, Learn, Play will launch a citywide reading challenge, partnering with OUSD and the Oakland Literacy Coalition. The Currys will incentivize the challenge, providing rewards for students and teachers. The foundation is also creating an Eat, Learn, Play bus that will serve as a free mobile market and bookstore, bringing restaurant meals and books directly into the communities. The vision is for a vehicle that serves many purposes, like distributing recreational equipment and community needs, such as flu shots and healthy information. The Currys are investing their time, their money, and their energy, and their futures. Steph says, "This is a priority. Obviously, basketball is the main thing, but this is setting a great foundation for how I spend my focus in the future." And this has been your Community Assist Minute. Okay, so we want to spend the second half pretty much talking about the play-in tournament, and it's kind of crazy that almost 3 weeks from now, we're actually going to witness the play-in tournament. We talked about this last episode of like what the details sort of goes into the play-in tournament. They started it last year with just an intrigue for the bubble and doing the 8th and 9th seed, but they kind of branched off from that and they did a 7 versus 8 and then a 9 versus 10. This is completely new for the NBA. Again, this is just part of it's probably to generate ratings, add more drama, get more teams in. The NBA is very notorious of teams trying to tank later on in the season. They changed the percentages, so the worst team somewhat almost has the same percentage as like the 4th worst, or the percentages are just very smaller now. But now when you add in the play-in, there's more incentive for teams to actually start winning games and wanting to win games because it gives you that advantage to play more and be in the playoffs. So with that, let's look at both conferences. We're going to start with the West right now. And our plan is to kind of nail down who's going to be our 7 through 10 3 weeks from now when the regular season is over and we see our first play-in game. For the West, we'll start with the West because it's probably a lot smaller teams, and I'm going to kind of work backwards as I look at the standings right now. And let's start with kind of like the Pelicans before we actually like start naming who our 7 through 10 is. The Pelicans right now are 4 games back from the 10th seed. And so let's just have this conversation right now with the Pelicans. I don't even know how we even got here with them because Ingram is coming off of last year an All-Star and a Most Improved. Then you have Zion, who has completely exploded, and we can even have a full segment on Zion and just like, is he the evolution of what the NBA is? This, I don't know how many pounds he is, but just like the 6'7", just like baby Shaq playing point guard, just kind of like dominating whoever is guarding him. And he's almost like an automatic points. But then you bring in Steven Adams, who's an experienced center. You bring in Bledsoe. Lonzo's been improved. Josh Hart off the bench. And somehow it just doesn't work. Especially you added Stan Van Gundy. And I was high on Stan Van Gundy before the season. I was just like, experienced head coach. Can he do what he did with the Magic? You know, kind of thing. Stretch guys out. Can he be a stretch four guy that can shoot or whatever? It has not worked out. And so where are you at with the Pelicans before we get through the 7 through 10?
Yeah, it's been a very disappointing season with the Pelicans. I expected, and how it played out, both Ingram and Zion made the All-Star game, kind of expected that. And I really thought that would be enough to make a recipe to make the playoffs, you know? And the fact that they're probably not going to make the playoffs is shocking. I don't really know. I don't see this team working out in the future because you have Ingram, you have Zion, and you can't even make the playoffs. Are you really going to need a third All-Star to make the playoffs and not even to make the finals? So just seeing it like that, I just don't see any hope for them. I think they're just going to – I don't even see Van Gundy coming back next year. Not because he don't want to, but because I don't see them – I see him getting fired.
I don't know if I'm strong on that last part, but I feel like his seat is very hot. I will say that because that experiment is not working, even though I thought it would. Stating the facts right now, this is Zion and Ingram's team, probably mostly Zion's team at this point. So those two are safe, I should say, of like the direction, because I'm with you that in the offseason it might get a little weird of just like, what is our direction moving forward? Because this is, I don't want to say it's 2 seasons in a row. I'll give them past last season. They had Gentry, Zion, and the minutes whole thing of just like, can he stay on the court? Can he not? Is he injured? Is he not? Or whatever. Ingram finally becoming who he is. They were a young team. I'll give them that pass, but they didn't make the playoffs. And I think a lot of people on NBA Twitter thought that the NBA really wanted Zion to be in the playoffs, and that's why they created the play-in. That's whole conspiracy theories on that. I don't believe in that, but there's that. I can't believe I just said that. But you have this year, and then they're 4 games back with incredible talent. Again, I think they're going to have major offseason. This is my bold take. I don't think Lonzo's on New Orleans next year because he is going to be a free agent. And I think he's going to get a bag somewhere else, whoever's going to pay him. I think he's a talented player. He'll go somewhere else. He's not going to be on New Orleans. That's my bold take right there. But I just don't see them being in the 7 through 10. They're not going to be one of my picks that I think is going to make it in this playoff right now unless something completely changes. Before we get to any other team, Zion got a new shoe.
They look pretty cool.
They look comfy.
Yeah. Coming out soon. I thought about it. I was actually shopping for new basketball shoes, but I ended up getting the Cosmic Unity. Big shout.
Nice. Those are dope.
Still kept it in the Nike family.
It's crazy that because the Duke game where his shoe exploded, and I think he had PGs on, and a lot of people were like, no, he's not going to Nike. He's not going to Nike, kind of thing. But, sometimes money talks. He's with Jordan now, which is interesting because Jordan's a UNC guy. He's a Duke guy. So I want to see Coach K rocking a Jordan brand polo or something. We'll see if that actually happens. And then there's a lot of talk with, is Zion going to the Knicks? ? He had some interesting comments, his post game, which
that would be a lefty powerhouse with all them lefties out there.
True. 2 Duke guys as well. 2 teammates as well. So I know a lot of people are writing their articles of just like Zion in a couple years when his contract ends. Is he going to the Knicks? Kind of thing. But I don't know. Not every superstar needs to go to a big city, but there's that. So let's look at this sort of 7 through 10. Right now, I'm going to include the Mavericks. So I think there's right now a 5-team sort of, I don't want to say race because no one really actually wants to be on the play-in right now. But I'm going to include the Mavs. So let's start with the 7. And out of these 5 teams, who do you think is going to be the 7 seed in 3 weeks from now? Because it's probably going to be, I'd probably say let's just say between the Mavs or the Blazers right now. Actually, it's really tight, so it could be really just any of these teams. So who do you think is
Yeah, it's really tight, and I first thought I want to say Portland because I'm really high on Dame. But to be honest, I think Luka, as of late, he's gotten into a rhythm, and I could see him getting hot too. So I'm going to take the Mavericks, Dallas.
You got them, staying in the sixth?
Staying in the sixth.
Got it.
Staying
Okay,
put.
so I'm with you. I'm going Blazers 7 right there. They're going to stay at the 7 in 3 weeks from now. Got Dame, you got CJ McCollum, got Big Nurk. Everyone's sort of back. But I think the Mavericks right now, they got those 2 wins over the Lakers just recently. They're kind of hot right now. Luka's back to his normal self. It is what it is. The 8th seed right now, I'll go and I'm going to stay where it's actually at right now, and I'm going to stay with the Grizzlies. I actually almost thought about the Warriors, but I realized that I know Valanciunas is injured. He'll come back, but they have Jaren Jackson Jr. that came back. Very hot these first 2 couple games that he's back. Great chemistry between him and John Morant. The Memphis Grizzlies are just so interesting because they're the youngest team in the NBA. They have just so many young players, especially their core guys, but they're just figuring it out all together. They're just kind of low key, playing very fun, very loose. Not a lot of expectation. Even last year, again, one of the youngest teams and still almost made it into the playoffs. Pretty much made it into the playoffs. They were the 8th seed, but then they lost or whatever. So I'm sticking with them with the 8th. What do you think?
I'm going to go ahead and pick my boy Steph Curry with the shot, boy.
Okay.
360 with the wrist, boy.
Hey.
Because Golden State, I was looking at their schedule. They got the Wolves coming up. They got the Rockets. They got the Thunder coming up a couple of times. So I think they could definitely get a few of those wins to take over that seed.
Since we're putting this all together, we'll compromise and we'll put the Warriors, because I actually did think about the Warriors, especially their hot streak. And they're kind of figuring it out. I kind of like the way that they play. They lead the league in assists, great ball movement. If they can win games, especially with that schedule, let's put them in the 8th. So we got the Blazers 7th, Warriors 8th, 9th.
Look at you. Tough love.
Let's go with the Grizzlies, just because I thought that they could be the 8th at this point, and I know this is hard for me, but let's put them at the 9th, what they're doing and what they can project to do. And then, unfortunately, for the 10th, my San Antonio Spurs. And at this point, like I said, the Pelicans are not really in this, so I feel like they're safe of just making it into the play-in. Last year, they didn't make the playoffs the first time in 20-plus seasons. You heard that right, 20-plus seasons, one of the best sports franchises in all of America. But here we go. So let's just lay this out there. Blazers 7, Warriors 8, Grizzlies 9, Spurs 10. So here we go. 7 versus 8 right now. Blazers versus Warriors. Big storyline right here. Steph Curry versus Dame. This has been the talk on NBA Twitter. A lot of people thought Dame was better than Steph the first half of the season because of recency bias. Steph has this incredible run these last couple weeks where we're just wow, he's a top 5 player and probably one of the best players of all time. If this was to come into fruition, the winner of this game becomes the 7th seed. The loser of this game becomes plays against the winner of the 9 and 10. Who do you have between Portland and the Warriors?
I see Steph having a great night, but I see the Portland as a team overcoming that and beating the Warriors and having Dame at the end just doing what he does and with the dagger at the end.
So I want to go with my boy Steph, but I'm kind of going with you with the Blazers. I just feel like, and I'm not really normally high on the Blazers, but just they probably have a little bit more pieces than the Warriors that I trust. And I really do like Draymond Green, but Draymond Green and Steph might not be enough for a Blazers team that's been in the middle of the pack pretty much these last couple of years with Dame and CJ McCollum. So I'm going to go with the Blazers as well. They win the game. They're the 7th seed. Let's go to the 9 and 10 really quick. Grizzlies, Spurs. Keep this in mind. These were 2 teams that had a lot of games that they had to reschedule because of COVID. So they had the most games in the second half of the season. So it's kind of cool that if this was the matchup, these are the 9 and 10 to really get yourselves in a position to the playoffs. Grizzlies Spurs.
So that's a good point that you mentioned, that how they played a lot of games in the second half of the season. That being said, Memphis being a younger team, I'm going to take Memphis.
This is tough for me because do I go with the experience of Pop? Do I go with the underrated player in the NBA and DeMar DeRozan? It's a young team also in the Spurs. I'm going the Grizzlies. The Spurs have just been too inconsistent for me down the stretch. Again, it's my favorite team, but it's just unfortunate that they probably won't win. Maybe it might be different in 3 weeks from now when we actually really analyze this, but Grizzlies, Trailblazers right now. Grizzlies, Warriors, to be the 8th seed right now. So one game to become the 8th seed. Grizzlies, Warriors. Who do you have?
One game, one time. I usually take Kobe Bryant, but since he's not playing right now, I'm going to take Steph Curry. One game, one moment, one win. I'm taking Steph.
I'm thinking Steph understands the situation and has one of those games that he's had the last couple of weeks where it's just he's unconscious. 8 3-point night, 10 3-point night. Just like he just goes ballistic, essentially, and he understands the moment. And it's one of those like legacy games, I think, where it's just like, hey, one game. A lot of people have been doubting me because I'm by myself. Well, here's that. Here's my one moment, essentially, and they do beat the Grizzlies. Same thing happens just like last year in the bubble. Maybe it's a fight to the end, but Steph is just too much, essentially. Now, if it was to end like that, it would be a Jazz Warriors 1 versus 8, a Suns Blazers. And for me, just kind of like looking at it, I'm still taking Jazz Suns in both of those series. I don't know how many games, but I still trust the Jazz and Suns. For the Warriors, it might be interesting because Steph has been in the playoffs. He's experienced. But I think both those teams might have too much for both parties in those. What do you think?
Yeah, I can see the Warriors just winning one game, to be honest. And if it's, instead of the Warriors, if it was Memphis Grizzlies, I could see them being swept.
Yeah, at this point. Again, I'm not a big Blazers guy, kind of thing. I think they will make noise. Dame will definitely make noise. Like the playoffs is his time, but just again, those top two teams.
But it would be something to keep an eye because Dame, he's a master in the first round, unless he's playing the Lakers. If not, he's probably going to send you home. And then you got Phoenix that hasn't been in the playoffs. You only got CP3.
True.
So, I could see Portland getting in that.
So let's move to the East, and the East is just an absolute mess at this point. There's about like 8 teams right now that I think could actually be in the play-in tournament because, again, it's so close. And I know the fourth place, I'm looking at it right now, the 4th place Knicks right now, between them and then the Raptors as the 12th seed, it is an 8.5 game difference. But like I said with the Knicks, they have one of the toughest schedules, so you never really know with that. Again, you can win one game and then be in the 4th seed or 5th seed and then lose one game, and then next thing you know, you're the 8th and 9th or whatever. So we're kind of looking at it right now. Let's kind of go backwards right now, talking about a little bit about the Wizards, Bulls, and Raptors. And we already said the Raptors are done. And I still think that, actually.
But they're creeping, though. They're creeping.
They are creeping. They have the experience, a very experienced team. The Bulls, that experiment post-trade deadline has just not worked out. And if you haven't already, go see the ending of last night's Bulls versus Miami Heat game, and that can kind of tell you the story of the Bulls the last month.
Valentine from 3.
No.
Airball.
Zach LaVine has been out for a while. That could be possibly the story, but we'll put them in the conversation, but I do feel like both of them are kind of out right now.
Facts.
One of the stories that's the low-key stories that we talked about last time is the Wizards coming out of thin air of just like last place to now the 10th seed, and they have a ton of momentum right now. Russell Westbrook, 28 triple-doubles this season. Just this season. And I don't care what anybody else says, that's really impressive. Like, that is beyond historic. And again, he just doesn't get that love. And we talked about it last. He just doesn't get the respect that he deserves. But we talked about that last week. But they're sitting at 10th right now. And I actually feel comfortable with them even like actually staying at that 10th or possibly pushing even further. I just think that momentum that they have right now, they're just continuing to win games. Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook playing at the potential that they have, as well as the role players are buying into what their top two players are doing right now. And I just feel like it's almost enough. They're not a good defensive team, but offensively, if they continue to keep figuring it out, I think they're just going to make the playoffs and be in that 10 seed. But let's just kind of go with it. Let's just kind of go 7 through 10 right now, just looking at it. We have to look at this actually as a positive. So who's essentially, we'll look at it as who's going to be our 4 through 6, essentially. We have to probably figure that out first. So looking at it right now, who would be your 4, 5, and 6? Doesn't matter the order at this point.
In order, I would put the Knicks, Boston, and the Hawks.
No Heat.
No, crap. You caught me.
The Heat has been very also inconsistent, but also I kind of trust them in the playoffs, though, because of Spoelstra. But I want to put the Knicks in there. I kind of want to put the Hawks, but the Celtics are, I think it's going to be between the Celtics and the Heat right now, as that 6 or 7 right now. And the Celtics, I've already said, like, I don't trust their bench. They have to rely too much on Brown and Tatum. They just lost to the Hornets today, and it just wasn't a good showing. I don't know if that's going to be who they are in the playoffs, but this is a tough one for that 6 seed right there. Let's go. Let's keep it Celtics. And let's keep it Celtics because Tatum has been incredible these last couple of weeks. They stay with him. Again, he's one of those guys that's approaching top 10 sort of deal. Brown has been an all-star this year. They just do enough to be in that 6 seed. So at this point, let's figure out the 7 through 10. Okay. So since we'll kind of skip a step. Since we already talked about the Heat possibly being a 6, let's just put them at 7 right there. They've got the Heat culture. They've got the pieces from last year. They made it to the finals. They're the 7 seed right now. This is where it gets kind of tricky. Who would you put as the 8 seed? Just kind of looking at it right now.
I'll put the Pacers. I think it's a matter of time until the Hornets drop off. Unfortunately, because I love them, but it is what it is.
One thing we do have to keep in mind is that LaMelo Ball might come back. Who knows? I guess his cast is off, and they said about like 7 to 10 days after the cast they could do some on-court activities. Who really knows? So that's something that we need to keep an eye on. But him not being there, Hayward out as well. They're still fun. Like Miles Bridges, like we said, just dunks on everyone. I don't know why he's mad at everyone in the league, but he just keeps dunking on every single person. Rozier plays well. Graham plays really well. PJ Washington plays really well. They're still a fun team, but I'm with you. They sort of drop off. I buy into the Pacers. They've always been that middle of the pack team, you know. So let's keep them at 8. Let's put the Hornets at 9. And are we confident in the Wizards at 10?
Yes.
So here we go. Heat versus the Pacers, which was the same as last year, and they beat them 4-0 right there. Who are you going with?
I'm going with the Heat, baby.
I think it's going to be inconsistent throughout the regular season, but that first game, I think it's going to be a flip of the switch where they just figure it out, you know, and they're just like, it's the playoff time. We're not screwing around anymore. Jimmy Butler knows, you know, kind of thing, and they're going to roll with him. I think they win big over the Pacers. They win that game. They're the 7th seed. 9 and 10, Hornets versus Wizards.
I'm taking the Wizards with a healthy Bradley Beal, hopefully.
I am going the Wizards because I trust. I can't believe I'm even saying. Well, actually, you should say this. I trust Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. I just trust the momentum that they have right now, and I think the Hornets. It is fun, but like they're young, they haven't been in this sort of situation. I'm kind of going with the Wizards right now, just because of their trajectory. So that means the Hornets are out, which sucks. But now you have the Pacers versus the Wizards, which is kind of an ugly game, to be honest, when you kind of say it out loud. This one game gets us to the 8th seed. Who do you have?
I think the Pacers have the most complete team. Although I think nobody on the Pacers team is better than Bradley Beal or Russell Westbrook, I think. But as a team, the Pacers are going to pace. They have a good team.
Love that. I'm going with the Pacers as well. Karis LeVert. I think he's the X factor. When you have Brogdon and Sabonis, I don't know if Turner's coming back, but they've got LeVert, and he's kind of like their go-to guy now, which is really interesting.
And they have TJ.
Your boy TJ. Pretty much if Karis LeVert is like their one go-to guy, TJ McCollum is like their spark guy, I should say. Just again, like we said this a couple episodes ago, but just like if you're gonna watch a Pacers game, look out for TJ McCollum, because you're gonna be like, how is this even a thing, sort of deal? But like he makes it happen. Again, if this was to play out based on the seedings right now, the Nets would play the Pacers. 76ers would play the Heat, which that's
scary hours.
Very scary. I think
Nightmares.
the Nets go probably 4-0 with the Pacers, but the 76ers and the Heat, Jimmy Butler playing against his old team. So a lot of animosity there. Like I said, if Miami Heat, if that's their one game where they flip the switch and they just kind of get back into that culture and that system that they have, I think it's going to be a very tough outing for the 76ers. Because, again, I don't trust that front court in Seth Curry and Danny Green having to guard Jimmy Butler. Duncan Robinson's really hot, sort of deal. I mean, Tyler Hero. I mean, this Miami team is very experienced based on last year. I don't know. It could be a 7-game series. It could be a 6-game series. I think the 76ers end up winning it, but I think it'll be very, very tough. So let's end with this. There's 3 weeks left in the season. Could be a lot of storylines happening right now. I'll ask you, what do you kind of want to see in these last 3 weeks, or any questions that you have, or anything that you want answered, any storylines, anything that's on your mind about these last 3 weeks?
I'll tell you what I don't want to see, and that's going to be injuries. It's been really unfortunate seeing a lot of these stars, young stars, vets getting hurt, and I just hope that a lot of people can bounce back, and the ones that are making the playoffs can make it to the playoffs and have a good run, help their prospective teams.
One thing about injuries is that I guess one of the questions that I have is a specific injury to a person going to dictate a seeding or dictate a team not making it into the playoffs? Now, I don't wish any sort of injuries on anyone, but like if there was an injury to happen, is that going to be a big story of why one team doesn't get into the playoffs, or one team like falls into the play-in tournament when they've been 4 through 6 or whatever it might be? Another thing that I have is the Knicks as well, just bringing them back of just like, can they keep this up? Again, sole possession of 4th. They still have to win games to even just make the playoffs, kind of thing. They're still in that category of those 8 teams, sort of deal. If they lose every single one of those games, they could be like the 10 seed or possibly fall out, sort of deal. So again, they've been one of the fun storylines of the entire season. Can they still keep this up? And really, I guess the last thing is just like the championship contending teams, just kind of thing of just like, I still think most of them are really for real, but like, is anyone just going to kind of take that leap where at the end of these 3 weeks, we're just like, yes, I for sure feel like Utah can make it to the finals, or I for sure feel like the Bucks can overcome and make it to the finals and beat the Nets or beat the 76ers. Is one of these like championship contending teams, for us personally, we're going to be like after these 3 weeks, just like, wow, I believe in that team.
I hope so, because I haven't seen that, to be honest. I'm not confident enough to tell you.
Because it's easy for us to say, like, okay, when LeBron comes back, it's the Lakers. Or when all 3 guys for the Nets play together, they're the team that wins it. I mean, it's easy for us to say that, but just like we haven't seen both parties just like full together and X amount of games together. We just haven't seen it. And most of that's going to come in the playoffs when it's a completely different animal. And then you can say the same thing about Utah and Phoenix. They haven't been in the situation as a 1-2 seed. Can they do it? The Clippers, they've been hiding under the rug this entire season. Are they actually championship contenders? The Milwaukee Bucks, we want to see it in the playoffs. Is this the year with Drew Holiday? Is this the year for the Milwaukee Bucks sort of deal? So, like, who in these next 3 weeks we're going to find out, just be like, okay, no, we feel good about this team either winning it all or making it to the finals. So we will have to see about that. All right, as always, we're going to close out with our parting shot, our lasting message. Again, doesn't have to be serious. If it wants to, it can be. It can be informational. It doesn't have to be sports related. But I think one of the biggest things that's on the top of my head, and this happened, it's not a message, but I need to bring this in, is Terrence Clark, a freshman out of Kentucky. He was someone that was projected to go in the second round of the NBA draft. Unfortunately had a devastating pass this week, and we're not going to necessarily go into all the details, but it sort of rocked the basketball community earlier in this week. And not only that, there was another actually devastating thing that happened is Scottie Pippen, an NBA Hall of Famer, NBA legend, one of his sons died this week. So kind of like two traumatic things sort of happened in the basketball community. Like I said, it really rocked everyone. Everyone on social media had something to say, whether they knew them or they didn't know them. They either had something to say. But kind of my message that I want to share, and it kind of stemmed from this weekend as well, as it was my dad's birthday and I spent like the entire weekend with my family, is that if you have loved ones that are with you, especially family members or friends or whatever, kind of appreciate the moments that you have with them. Take advantage of the opportunities that you do have with them. Because again, you just kind of never really know. And I know it's kind of scary. You don't really want to say that out loud of just like, you never really know or whatever. Tomorrow might be your last day sort of deal. But just like, it's just like the message of just like, hey, every once in a while, kind of thing of just like, hey, thank you, Dad, or thank you, Mom, or I love spending time with you, sis, or whatever, or the friends that you might have, of just appreciating the moments that you do have. And sometimes it might be good, sometimes it might be bad, you never know. But just like, again, just like maybe tell them you love them tonight or whatever, your parents, your sister, your brother, your cousins, whatever it might be, whoever your loved ones are, just appreciate the moments that you have with them, because again, you just never really know what's going to happen. And again, it's very unfortunate of what happened to those two individuals. Much prayers to their families. But again, very devastating, rocked the basketball community. And like I said, just appreciate the moments that you have with your loved ones. So with that, we will end our podcast 6 episodes in. This is very fun that we do this every week. Get to share our opinions about what we think about in the NBA. So as always, guys, please, please, please rate, review, subscribe, share with a friend. If you really enjoyed this podcast, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Podcast ABC. That is Podcast ABC, Instagram and Twitter. Chili, anything that you want to share?
No, and I loved your parting shot. I think, and a lot of people have different love languages. You don't really necessarily have to say I love you. You can just show them, and you can just clean somebody's house, clean somebody's room, just if they need whatever they need. So that was really nice of you. I like that a lot. But be safe, everyone. Take care.
And with that, we will see you next week. This is All Blocks Covered, guys. Peace.